Hey guys, and welcome back to another series from AC Gamer. Now, basically, what we're going to be doing on this one is not a let's play. I'm going to be sharing with you guys the information that I've learned over the course of my time on YouTube and recording games and things of that sort, because a lot of you have been asking me for some time. And this will be like the third time I'm doing these videos. I tried to do them a little while back, and the program I was using wasn't really doing what I wanted it to do, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the future here. But to start the episode off, we're going to talk about how you record video games. Like what are the devices or software that you can get to use that to get to that point where you can actually start recording something? Because that's the bare minimum. Like if you can't record your game, then you don't really need to worry about YouTube and how to set it up and things of that sort. So for me, I used a little program called Fraps. Fraps is a amazing little thing. I like it quite a bit. I'm going to talk about it here in a minute, but before I do that, I want to mention consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, things of that sort. If you're going to be recording on those, you're going to need a device that you plug into your console. And then the device, depending on the sophistication, how much money you're willing to spend on it, will either record directly to that device, and then you can take that information off with a thumb drive or something like that, and then just upload it. Or what you'll have is the lower cost version, which is something that will plug into your console and then plug into your computer, and then your computer will use some kind of recording software to then record what's on, your system. Those, I mean, depending on the state of the art, of or the tech of your computer, if it's really really up to specs with current technology, that might be a viable solution where you can even get better graphics. I've heard some of them will actually upscale them slightly because the computer obviously is going to have better graphics period in video games, which is why I kind of lean towards the side of those consoles, they're perfectly fine. In fact, they're highly enjoyable. I love consoles, so don't get me wrong when I say this, but the graphics on them will never compete to what the computer is. And if you're going to be recording video games, at least for me anyways, I want to give you guys the highest quality I can possibly give. So if you're watching it on a TV or something like that, you can be like, wow, the game manufacturers went above and beyond, to come up with that. So that's why I side with computers. Plus, they're just a little bit easier to upgrade as time goes on, rather than having to buy a whole other system. But it's a whole other argument in itself. So you'll need one of those devices if you're using a console of some sort. Or if you're going to be on the computer, the only thing you need is a program. Now, you can use Fraps. Fraps is the one I use, and I highly, highly would recommend for somebody just starting out to use this. The downside is it does cost money. So some of you just starting out being maybe I don't want to invest money into it because it's just something you're not willing to do because you're not sure if you're going to do it for long. And I completely understand that. For that, I would recommend a program called OBS. In fact, let me see if I have it here. Okay, so this is Fraps. So let's do OBS, guys. OBS, which stands for Open Broadcast Software. Right there, obsproject.com. It's crazy. It's the first one. Usually it's an advertisement of some sort. But Open Broadcast Software, completely free. It works. The downside to this one is that it's kind of complicated to set up. You're going to have to watch a few videos to get the settings down. And then even once you do that, what I've noticed is depending on how, up to date your computer is on hardware, you may not be able to run it at full specs right while recording. And then on top of that, you may have to mess around with it on each and every game because some games will be higher on the processing power, and then of course you're recording at the same time. So if the game, say, is taking up 50% of your CPU and the recording software takes up 30, you're fine. But if the game, when you change to another one, goes to 70%, now you're doing 100% of your CPU, chances are you're going to have a little bit of lag somewhere in there. And if the game takes up like 80% or 90% of your CPU, then you can't even do it at all, really, because you're exceeding past what the CPU can even handle. And this thing, this program, does a lot of really, really cool stuff. And so it has a high, like RAM and CPU usage because it's doing all that stuff in the background, or it has the capability of doing all that stuff. And so it's a little bit more bloated than, say, Fraps is. And that's the problem I've run into with this game, or this software right here, is that it does use quite a bit. Because first of all, you need to understand that when you record a game, there's two aspects to that that you need to consider. One is the software is recording that game. That uses up a certain amount of processing power and a certain amount of RAM. Then some of these programs, like Open Broadcast Software, will go back and actually convert that or bring the resolution down, or it does things to take out the excess parts of that video and make it smaller. Basically, is what I'm saying. So Fraps, there's a downside to this one. We'll record it in its unnatural or its unedited form, right? It's going to be the best quality that it could possibly be at the highest resolution with the highest sound, everything, right? The downside to that is it's going to be like 150 gigs per 30 minutes. So you need a pretty decent sized hard drive to be able to record, say, 2 or 3 hours of gameplay, and then go back and convert it down to a smaller size. And once you convert the Fraps file from like 150 gigs, they will go all the way down to like a gig and a half, sometimes even less, for that one file size of the 150 gigs. So you're not really going to be using a lot of hard drive space once you convert it down, but to actually record, you're going to need that initial investment. So I would recommend at least a 2 terabyte hard drive. For my main hard drive, I use a 1 terabyte, so I'm able to record like 7 videos before I have to stop and then go and convert. So that kind of slows me down a little bit on that one. But the new computer I'm going to get, and that I already have as soon as I can fix it, is going to be 4 terabytes as the main hard drive. I'll be able to record as long as I really can, possibly record in one day. I just don't have that kind of time to record all, like 8, 9, 10 hours in a day every day, because when you convert the stuff later on, again, it takes up less space, so it's not going to be sitting there for long. It's only once you convert it. And that's an extra process, an extra step that you have to do when you use Fraps, and we'll get on that in a second. But back over to Open Broadcast Software. And now these are not the only 2 softwares you can use. These are the 2 that I would recommend. I've used the other ones. I've had a pretty much bad experience with those other ones. But every game is a little different, so I will warn you that some of these programs will work better for one game, and then when you move to the next one, it really sucks. And then you try something else, and you're like, wow, this works perfect for this game. And it's kind of weird. So you may want to choose to have 4 or 5 of these programs on your computer. Some of them are free, some of them are not. But eventually, when you go to those games, depending on the quality that you want to get out of the video, you may try those different ones if you have a problem with the first one, and eventually find one that like records to the standard that you want, which is, if you're going to do the videos, I mean, do them to the standard you would want to watch them at. So if you don't mind watching things on the phone, then you don't need to do them at high res. You can do them at like 480p or something like that, and you will be able to record, probably a lot longer, because it's going to take up less space when it records, because it knows that's what you're doing. With the Open Broadcast Software, again, Fraps does not have that option. It's going to record at the highest quality possible the first time, and then when you go back to convert it, then you can lower the quality. But you can't lower the quality while you're recording. So keep that in mind, guys. With this one, you can. Again, it has all those options. With Fraps, when you install the program, in fact, I can show you guys right here. This is Fraps right here, guys. And you'll have these little different tabs at the top. I'm not going to show you General, because General has like all my information on it and stuff like that. But frames per second, you can set up this stuff. I mean, nothing here you have to absolutely have on. Like, you don't even have to mess with anything on this tab, anything on the screenshots tab. You just go straight to the movies, and you see right here where it says video capture hotkey. You push that as a hotkey. Like F2 for me starts the recording, and then you hit F2 again and it stops it. That's it. That's really all you have to do for this program. Now, you may want to come in here and pick your sound capture settings as far as like where it's going to record from, multi-channel stereo, and click this little box that says record external output or input for your microphone. That's pretty much it. I have hide mouse cursor right now. I could click that off, and I guess now you're seeing my mouse here. I just didn't want you guys to be distracted by it while I'm moving around. But that's it. That's all you have to set up. Now, I have mine set on 60 frames per second, which is the highest you can possibly have right now. I'm sure with future updates to this, they're going to come out with a higher frames per second, because I think 120 is what YouTube will allow you to go to right now. Or was it 60? No, I think it's 60. Yeah, because they upgraded from 30 not too long ago, and I record my stuff at least 120. So in the future, it's going to be there. Now YouTube will downgrade your quality anyways, which we'll get to in future episodes. But for now, we're going to be talking about Fraps a little bit here. And split movie every 4 gigabytes. I would not recommend that at all because again, the file sizes are huge. So for like a 30-minute episode, you're gonna have like 1,000 files to go through, and I just don't like that. That's gonna be less than 30 seconds for like 4 gigabytes, I would imagine. So I don't quite know why anybody would ever put that on, but it's there if you really, really want to do that. And of course, you can do screenshots if you want to come in here and mess around with that. You can do image format, and you could actually do this without recording. So you can just come in here and set a key right here where it says none to whatever you want. I have mine turned off right now, but you can set it to say like the F3 button or F4 button or something like that. And when you click that button, you can have it over here where it says include frame rate overlay on screenshot so that you can see what kind of frames per second you're getting. I have that turned on, but you guys will not see it. It's in the top left corner for me. If you see right over here, I have it set right here where it says overlay. You can hide it completely and then it will get rid of these numbers. The reason I like having that on is it lets me know that I'm recording. For one, when you hit the button to record, it turns it red, and so the numbers will move up and down. And two, it lets me know if my computer is getting close to where it can't handle the game, because if you get to a high action scene and your frame rates go from like 120 down to like 30, it's only doing that because your computer's not able to render it at that 120 like it's supposed to. Or maybe the game was designed poorly, and so it just doesn't have those frames per second on that actual scene. But chances are it's more probably to do with your computer than anything else, at least from what I've seen. And you also get to know if your game is locked up or something, because if your frames go down to like 1, then the game isn't moving. It's not just the program that's locked up. Like Fraps is still working. Fraps hasn't messed you up. It's the game for some reason. And then you can go ahead and hit like stop on the record, fix whatever the issue is on the game, and then start the recording again without it really ever missing a beat there. Now, with OBS allows you to actually pause the video while you're recording it. So if you need to cough, somebody calls on the phone, something happens, you got to get up and do something, you can hit the button. It pauses it without ending the video. So the file doesn't end, and now you have one 5-minute video as a file, and then another one that's say 25 minutes for your 30-minute episode. Now you got to do something to convert the two and put them together, almost splicing them together. OBS will just let you pause it, and when you come back and unpause it, it will just continue on with that same recording. So when you're done, you just have one file because it's doing everything for you. It's recording and converting that down to a smaller file size, rendering it down, and it's going to use more processing power because of that. And so if you're not working with a state-of-the-art computer, you have to worry about that with this program. Fraps, on the other hand, simply records, so it doesn't use nearly as much as that, the CPU and the RAM. And so games that I'm playing that are very, very sophisticated and very, high end on the graphics eat through a lot of my processing power, even on a good computer. And you just may not have that extra processing power to go around on those specific games, and so Fraps might be a viable solution for you, at least then. You don't always have to use it, but for me, like I said, it's easiest program in the world. You load it up and you hit the button. That's it. That's all you got to do. Once these settings are done right here on this one page, and you can see there's not really a lot of them. OBS, on the other end, which I don't even have installed on my computer right now because it's just not the program that I really, really like using. So many options. I kid you not, guys. There's tab after tab after tab of options in that thing. And yeah, once you know what you're doing, you could set it up in like 10 seconds. Like, it doesn't take that long to set it up. But to figure out that, to get to that point where you know what you're doing, it takes a lot longer than Fraps. So you're going to watch a few videos, you're going to check some stuff out, and you're going to tinker with it. And every game you're going to have to tinker with it a little bit more. At least that was my experience. I used it for quite a while, trying it out, and it was just I don't know what to say on it. It's a good program. And if you're going to stream, guys, that's another thing I should talk about. If you're going to stream, OBS is the one for you. Like, you're just not going to be able to use Fraps. Fraps does not stream at all. So if streaming is what you're after, then OBS or another program like it will be your choice. But OBS is free, and it's a decent program. It's just, man, it's going to be difficult for you if you're just coming at it from, a standpoint of never recording, because there's a lot of other factors you're going to need to take into account as far as the game itself. Like, this thing will record at whatever resolution you want it to record at. The best thing, also something on that one, guys, if you're going to record the game at 720, make sure to go into the game option and change the resolution there to 720 or 1920 or whatever, the 1080, whatever you're trying to go as. That's what you want to change into the game so they match both on OBS and on the game. And that's another thing I was going to get into here in a second, guys, is with Fraps, you don't have to do that. Fraps literally hit the button, records. If you go into the game itself and say, oh, I only want to run it at 480, Fraps again will simply record whatever you're playing. So if you set it to 480, it will record it at 480 because that is what you're playing. With OBS, you have to go in there and set those to match to get the best result. Some people will say you don't have to do that. In my experience, if you do that, you'll get a better result than if you don't. From my experience, again, guys, I'm not an expert, but the little I have learned about this, I'm kind of trying to share with you guys so you can avoid some of the long afternoons of messing with the program and getting really nowhere until you figure out, oh, if I had only done that, and just set them to match, and now it works perfect. Don't ask me why it works perfect, but it does. And it's one of those things. So yeah, I would say Fraps or OBS. Out of all the programs I've ever tried, those are the two best ones that do pretty much everything you need to do. Fraps, again, just record the game, nothing fancy, nothing special on that one. And then OBS for the more advanced streaming capability. And in the end, I would actually say, guys, Fraps gives you a higher frame rate and sound quality than OBS. But OBS is really close. It's not a huge difference, but there is a difference. And so if you're going for like the best, videos that you can make that you're going to upload later on, I would go with Fraps because you're going to get that best quality, and you're going to be able to control the quality a lot more with Fraps than you will with OBS. OBS, yeah, it gives you the standards and stuff like that, but once you get into Fraps, Fraps records, the whole thing. And if I come in here and go to Virtual Dub, Virtual Dub is another program you're going to need that will allow you to convert that 150 gigabyte Fraps file into a smaller version of that. And you're just going to go ahead and in here, and in fact, let me see. I will go into my videos. Actually, I need to go back to Fraps. Go into my movies, and there you go. This is a file. It's 2 minutes and 42 seconds long, and it's 3.96 gigabytes. So you can convert that up to higher. And again, guys, keep in mind, the more frames per second that it's recording, the bigger the size of the file. The smaller the frames per second, the smaller the size. So if you're playing the game in 480, again, it's going to be a smaller size. You're playing it at 120 frames per second, it will record it at 120 frames per second, and you're going to have a huge freaking size. And they get large, guys, believe me. So here it is right here. You can see that you're only seeing part of the image. If I, magnify it and go into full screen mode, you'll see most of the image. Now this is, recorded in 1920 by 1080, and that's the size of my monitor. So actually at the very top, you're seeing a couple inches cut off, and then, a few inches on the bottom cut off as well. So it's actually a bigger image than this that it can record. You have all of these options here at the top. Pretty easy though, guys. You go into the video settings, you go into compression, and in compression, it's going to pop up this little window right here. Now you're not going to have all the options that I have on mine. You're going to have to download a few codecs. Actually, just one. I download two. I download Xvid, because it used to be the best one you could use, and then they came out with X264VW blah 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 codecs. You can look for that online. I'll put a link down below as well. You download that. This is the smallest file size you can use. The new cameras that are coming out, they're using the 264 technology with the conversion or whatever, and it really takes a file and brings it down to size. The cool thing about this is they come out with a new, conversion like codecs every so often. And with OBS, they don't, right? Like they may have future updates where they incorporate that in there for you automatically, but you don't get it when it first comes out, and you don't get to choose. So if you're a techie and you like to keep up to date on all this stuff, you can get these things like immediately upon release, try them out, and you may go from 150 gigabyte file down to like 800 megabytes or even smaller. There might be better ones out there than this one already. This is just the one that I'm familiar with, that it works for me, and I don't really go on to those forums very often and see what's up to date, but this one, is fantastic. And like I said, again, it's just a bonus that you have that capability. Now, before you click OK, you want to go in here into config, and you're like, oh, well, there's a lot of stuff on here. Not really, not really. The only things you need to click are the virtual dub hack down here in the bottom of it, and then change the rate factor to 19. 19 seems to give you the best one. It's going to lower the quality. As you can see, low quality is 51, and high quality would be all the way at like 1 or 0, however high this goes. I don't, yeah, I think it says 1 right there. So, yeah, I wouldn't really go to that, because if you go to 1, it's not going to take any of that 150 gigs away, really. It's going to take 150 gig and make it either like 149 or something like that. Because this right here, the rate factor, that's what you're lowering to take out all of that bloat, in my opinion. Because I will watch the unedited version, the refined version that you just get straight out of Fraps, and then I will watch the other one, and there is literally no difference between the two, to my naked eye anyways, on the monitor that I'm watching. Maybe on future monitors the quality would be good enough that I could see the difference between that, but I can't see any of that with the technology that's out. So I would suggest converting it down, taking that file size, because if you don't do it, YouTube will. YouTube does not want 150 gigabyte files being uploaded. They just wouldn't be able to handle that. I don't even know how they handle the amount of videos uploaded to them every hour. I think somebody was saying a while back that it was like a week's worth, like if you did 24 hours every day for an entire week, they have that amount of hours uploaded to them every hour of every day. That's a lot of freaking space that they're going to need just for the smaller file size. So they have a conversion on their own end, which we'll talk about. Theirs is fantastic. I've never seen any loss of resolution or sound quality remotely with theirs, and they're converting it down to a decent size, because when you use programs to record off of YouTube, you'll notice that the file size is sometimes 300 or 400 megabytes smaller than the one I uploaded, and the quality is still pretty much the same. Like, you don't see any difference between the two, and that's pretty freaking awesome. They have a pretty nice one. I wish I could get my hands on that one, but once you're done with this and the compression, you can mess around with all these other things if you want. There's a lot of options in here that you can do. You can do your own little editing by coming in here and select start, and then move the little cursor down here and do edit select end, and then you can delete or copy or paste and do all sorts of editing and stuff in here. But that's for a video for a future time. I'm just kind of glancing over some of the programs and giving you some little heads up on stuff you might want to use, and then you just do save as AVI and you're done. It's gonna pop up here and it's gonna say, where do you want to save it? You say, yeah, fine, whatever. Save it in that folder, because I know where that's at. This little window will pop up, and as it goes through, it's going to show you all the information you're going to need to know, which is like, projected file size. It's telling you right here. This isn't going to climb the entire time, pretty much as it goes through. It will, I think, maybe like 5 minutes into it, give you a rough idea how much it's really going to come out to. This one's only going to take 8 minutes. Again, depending on the processing power of your computer and how long the video is. This is a really short video, that's why it's not going to take so long. It may take you up to 30 minutes, or even as long as like 3 or 4 hours. If you're doing a really, really long video, it may take you even longer than that. Like, hour-long videos for me will take me about 4 to 4.5 hours sometimes. If I do longer than an hour, oh my God, that would just be ridiculous. And it's not even like you would just double that amount if it's 2 hours. No, it's like it magnifies itself and then some. So an hour-long one may only be, say 4 hours. A 2-hour one you would think would be 8 hours. No, it's gonna be something like 12 hours. It's like you don't really want to do long videos unless you have the processing power to go with it. Again, I have tried this on my new computer, and it takes what usually would take about 3 hours on this computer and does it in about 20 minutes. So that does make a huge difference. You got a state-of-the-art computer. This amount of time right here is going to be nothing to you. It's going to be so quick. You could do it while you're recording the next one. You know, like it's not going to be a hassle. You don't got a great computer. This might just have to be one of those burdens you bear because, again, you might not be able to use OBS if your computer isn't capable of both recording and converting into a smaller file size at the same time, which is what OBS ultimately does. Now, I usually just go ahead and click this little button off here that shows input video and output video. You'll see on the screen the video has pretty much stopped. If I turn that back on, you'll see like the creatures in the background, little windows pop up. They're all moving. This is showing you what frame it's on at the moment and the frame that it's outputting, and you can kind of watch it go about its process and see if, oh crap, I forgot I needed to take that out, or yeah, that was a little bit laggy, or oh yeah, that's exactly what did happen. Now I can relabel it and call it whatever the episode is. If you want this up on like a second or third monitor just to keep an eye on it, you can do that. But I always take that off. It helps speed it up a little bit if you're worried about processing power. Lower this down a little bit. You can see over here that it is converting right now, and my processor is running about 18%, and the RAM is running at 73%. Now I have 6 gigs of RAM on the computer, the one that I'm using right now. You can obviously tell that's not even close to the amount that I need. On the new computer, I have 64, and that one just runs beautifully. It doesn't even go up to like 18% on the RAM when you convert and record and play a video game and have like 1,000 Windows pages open, and you're doing like processing power, just whatever mainframe stuff in the background. Like, I'm just getting to the point that you can get it where this does not even like touch it. But for me, with a low-end computer right now, 6 gigs is not really a lot at the moment. 2015, it's gonna take a bit. So when you do this process right here, that's pretty much all I will do. I won't do anything in the background. I won't be recording another game or something like that. This will be at the end of the night once you're done. You do this process because it may take you 2-3 hours for each one, which is what it takes me at the moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and board on that one real quick, guys, because I'm not gonna let that finish. But let's go back into. You also need to think about the YouTube page and what you're going to name it. And I think that's what we're going to get into on the next episode, guys. I think that will be a good place to kind of finish this up. We're just going to do a brief overview. In fact, it wasn't that brief on Fraps, so maybe I will do a more in-depth overview on OBS as well sometime in the future if you guys want to see that, because I do know what the stats need to be, or the information you need to put into the options.